So we're here to talk to you about Sarah. I'll show you a picture. Do you know Sarah?
I don't know.
Okay. Sarah went missing. I'll show you some pictures of her on the day.
Okay.
Sarah went missing on Wednesday. Her parents obviously and her family are really worried about that. The inquiry that's been conducted so far has led us to come and speak to you about it and to see what we know about Sarah, okay? So, would you like to, do you know where Sarah is?
No.
Right. Do you know anything about what happened to her?
I know that she went missing up in London somewhere. About a week ago or so. Just from what I got on the news.
Okay. Have you ever personally met her?
No, not personally, no.
Have you had any interactions with her?
The missing woman that investigators are talking about in the missing video is Sarah Everard, 33 years old, a marketing employee living in London. And the man being questioned by the police in front of the camera is none other than the perpetrator who took her life. What is special about this case is that the perpetrator is a police officer. What made a police officer, who is trusted to protect the community, brutally murder an innocent woman? This case not only shocked the whole UK because of its seriousness, but also sparked a wave of outrage about women's safety and the corruption in law enforcement. Let's take a deep look at this shocking case to better understand the truth behind these seemingly normal images. Sarah Everard was born in 1987 in the ancient city of York, located in the north of England. She is the youngest daughter in a typical British intellectual family, with a father who is a teacher and a mother who works in the field of community education. Sarah attended Fulford School, a prestigious secondary school in York. Throughout her years there, she achieved high academic results. But what people remember about her is not only her excellent grades, but also her humble attitude, team spirit, and kindness to everyone. She is not a person who likes to stand out from the crowd, but wherever Sarah is, there is safety and warmth. She is always willing to help her classmates and is trusted by her teachers to take on many extracurricular responsibilities. After graduating from high school, Sarah went to Durham University, one of the most prestigious universities in the UK, where she studied geography. In a competitive academic environment like Durham, Sarah maintained a simple, hardworking, and honest lifestyle. After graduating with flying colors, Sarah moved to London to start her career. She took a job in marketing, eventually becoming an executive marketing officer for Beaufort Research. Her job was not glamorous, but Sarah was hardworking, efficient, and punctual, something her superiors and colleagues appreciated. Sarah's life in London was simple. She lived in a small flat in Brixton, south of the capital. Sarah had always been very careful about her safety, a point that was repeatedly emphasized after her disappearance. Night of the 3rd of March 2021. The city had just entered the late evening. The streets were quieter than usual due to the travel restrictions imposed during the COVID-19 lockdown. It was just before 9 p.m. when Sarah Everard, 33, said goodbye to her best friend after a cozy get-together in Clapham, South London. As usual, she chose to walk home, a journey of about 50 minutes, through familiar streets where every lamppost, every corner was part of her daily routine. Sarah wore a bright jacket and a face mask, and talked on the phone with her boyfriend. She walked along the sidewalk, away from traffic, as she always did. A normal, proper, careful woman doing everything society expected to do to stay safe. But what no one expected was that very night, all that caution would be for naught because a predator disguised as justice was lurking ahead. The man was Wayne Couzens, an armed constable in the Metropolitan Police, who had been tasked with protecting embassies, government buildings, and parliament. But behind the lawful facade was a double dealer with a dark history that colleagues had warned him about. A man who had been accused of public indecency, but never investigated. Sarah was handcuffed on the sidewalk and put into a car, not knowing that she would never return home. On the surface, it all looked like a legal arrest during a pandemic, but in reality, it was a kidnapping, perfectly disguised by power. Wayne Couzens drove out of London, taking Sarah to the Kent countryside where he lived with his wife and children. A remote, isolated place, perfect for hiding a body. For hours, he kept Sarah handcuffed, removed her SIM card, cut off all communication, and then committed the most brutal acts imaginable. In later testimony, Couzens tried to conceal his motives, fabricating lies about being forced by Eastern European gangs. But evidence from the car's GPS, traffic cameras, CCTV along the road, along with forensic results, exposed everything. In the countryside near Ashford, Couzens raped Sarah in a remote area. He then strangled her to death, an act that the forensics determined was caused by marks on her neck and bone structure. It was not a fit of panic, as he claimed, but a deliberate, calculated, and cold act. After killing Sarah, he went about his life as if nothing had happened, buying drinks, eating tarts at Costa, going home to his wife and children. On the 4th of March, 2021, Sarah Everard's family officially reported her missing to the London police after leaving a friend's house in Clapham the previous evening. Sarah did not show up for work, nor did she call her mother as usual. This was extremely unusual for someone like her, someone who was organized, punctual, and had a close bond with her family. Police immediately opened an investigation. For the first few hours, the case was still considered an unexplained disappearance. But it wasn't until the next day, when investigators began collecting surveillance data, that the case took on a whole new level. A kidnapping and possibly a murder. The investigation began with Sarah's likely walking route, from Clapham to Brixton. They searched traffic, CCTV, public bus cameras, and security cameras on both sides of the road. Every frame was analyzed, second by second. At an intersection, at 9:34 p.m., a white car pulled up to the curb. A man got out and approached a woman who looked like Sarah. The man did not assault or drag her. He simply held out an object and talked for a few minutes. Then Sarah got into the car, without any sign of resistance. That detail immediately made the police suspicious. This was not a spontaneous attack. This was an organized, planned, and well-disguised kidnapping. Based on the time the car appeared on CCTV, the police continued to search for information about the license plate. The white car was rented, and the person who rented it was Wayne Couzens, a name that made many in the investigation team stunned. Couzens was an armed police officer, working for the Diplomatic Protection Unit of the Metropolitan Police Department. Police immediately accessed the phone and GPS data from the rental car. The results were chilling. The car had traveled from Clapham to Ashford, Kent, in a time period that matched Sarah's disappearance. Not only that, Couzens' phone and Sarah's phone had appeared at the same location on the night of the 3rd of March, exactly the stretch of road where she was last seen on camera. Investigators also discovered that Couzens had removed his phone's SIM card on the night of the murder, which police called a classic act of criminal obliteration. But he had made a major mistake. A phone continued to record location data even without the SIM card, a fatal flaw. On the evening of the 9th of March, 2021, just 6 days after Sarah went missing, police knocked on the door of Wayne Couzens' home in Deal, Kent. He walked out calmly, showing no signs of distress. But when questioned about the time and location of the evening of the 3rd of March, he began to fumble. giving conflicting answers. Initially, he said he was just going for a walk, then switched to saying he was forced by a gang to kidnap a girl to pay off a debt.
I still don't know. I don't know. They just, I just parked my car up, and then the van come up behind me, flashed me. They all jumped out, and then they took this girl. They said, you've done good, and I don't know whether my family's going to go to us still. They threatened to take my family away from me. So at that point, I'm doing what I can to protect my family. That's it. So all I know is that it was a roundabout. We could drive there now. I could show you. But roughly, I don't know Lenham, Maidstone area at all.
If we did it on Google, Maps, like Google Earth, if we drove it, would you be
Right.
able to do it?
I drove from Ashford to Maidstone.
But the lie could not stand up to the evidence. Police searched his home, seized his phone, computer, badge, handcuffs, and most notably, his car's dashcam, which recorded his movements on the fateful night. Meanwhile, a search party was deployed in Kent, where GPS tracking showed Cousins had stopped for hours. On the 10th of March, 2021, after several days of reviewing location data from Wayne Cousins' phone and rental car, the Metropolitan Police Special Task Force, in conjunction with forensic units, launched a search in the rural area of Hodes Wood, Ashford, Kent, the suspected endpoint of the suspect's journey. Around noon that day, a police officer involved in the ground search reported finding a suspicious object deep in the thick brush, a few dozen yards off the trail, near the industrial area Cousins had frequented. As they approached, they noticed a large green plastic bag, the kind typically used to carry dead animals on farms. The bag was loosely covered with rotten leaves and a few dry branches. At the scene, the smell of burning plastic and organic matter was strong. The forensic team immediately sealed off the area, took samples for analysis, and opened the bag under the supervision of a senior forensic doctor. Inside was the partially burned and disfigured body of a woman, but still identifiable through the remaining personal jewelry and clothing. Forensic experts confirmed the body was that of Sarah Everard, 33, who had gone missing exactly 7 days earlier. An autopsy revealed that Sarah died from blunt force strangulation. There were injuries to her neck, including a fractured hyoid bone, classic signs of mechanical asphyxiation. In addition, biological samples and soft tissue damage suggested she had been raped before her death. This information left the entire investigation team speechless. On the one hand, they had accomplished their mission, to find the truth. On the other hand, they were faced with the bitter reality. The killer was someone they had once called a colleague. In his confession, Cousins admitted that he had planned the abduction in advance, saying that on the 3rd of March 2021, he hired a car, brought handcuffs and prepared his police badge to carry out the kidnapping. He wandered around the Clapham area, looking for a suitable victim, and when he saw Sarah walking alone, he decided to choose her. He stopped the car, approached Sarah, and pretended to arrest her for violating the COVID-19 lockdown. He flashed his badge, read her name, and asked her to stop. Sarah, unsuspecting, cooperated. He handcuffed her and put her in the car, saying he would take her to the police station. He admitted to driving for over 2 hours to Kent. On the way, he spoke to Sarah, pretending to drop her off early if there were no problems. But after arriving, he took her to a remote area, raped her in the car, and then strangled her to death with a belt. When asked why he killed her, Cousins said, "I had no choice. If I let her live, she would tell the police. I would lose everything." After killing Sarah, he went home, had dinner with his wife and children, as if nothing had happened. The next day, he returned to the crime scene, bought gasoline, burned her body in a plastic bag containing animal carcasses, and buried the body roughly under leaves and dry branches. He returned home, cleaned his car, and thought that was the end of it. On the 30th of September, 2021, at the Old Bailey Central Criminal Court, where many of the most notorious criminals in British history were tried, Wayne Couzens, 48, stood in the dock with 3 serious charges: kidnapping, rape, and murder. The court was packed with reporters, lawyers, relatives of the victims, and even representatives from the Metropolitan Police. In a heavy atmosphere, Couzens appeared via video from Belmarsh Prison, his head shaved, his face cold and expressionless. The court was shown traffic camera footage of Sarah getting into Couzens' car, location data from the rental car and their personal phones, as well as photos of the scene where the body was found. Forensic experts confirmed traces of Couzens' DNA on the victim's body and found clear evidence of sexual assault. Sarah's mother, Susan Everard, gave a tearful statement in court. Her words silenced the courtroom. Some broke down in tears. Sarah's death was not just a personal loss. It was a cruel betrayal by the very system that was supposed to protect her. Wayne Couzens did not enter a plea or show any remorse during the trial, pleading guilty 3 times to the prosecutor's charges. Even the defense attorney did not ask for a reduced sentence, because the brutality and betrayal of public trust were so obvious. Senior Judge Lord Justice Fulford handed down the highest sentence in the UK criminal justice system.
The defendant is attending via a link from his prison. He's to stay seated where he is. For the offence against A, count 2 on indictment number T 2022-0638, the sentence is one of 19 months imprisonment. There will be concurrent sentences of 6 months on each of counts 2 and 3 on indictment T 2022-0320. The total sentence is accordingly one of 19 months. As I have already said, existing whole-of-life sentence from which the defendant will never be released.
In his sentencing, the judge said, "This was a crime that shocked the country, not only because of its brutality, but also because it was committed by a policeman. He used his power, uniform, and badge to kidnap, rape, and murder a completely innocent woman. A flagrant betrayal of the public trust in those charged with protecting them." The judge also stressed that, in his entire career, he had never seen a case so clearly reflecting the corruption of power, masked under the guise of justice. Wayne Couzens was eventually sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Whole life orders are an extremely rare punishment, only given to extremely dangerous criminals such as terrorists, mass murderers, or child killers. At the time of the sentencing, only around 60 people in the UK were serving the order. The conviction of a serving police officer without parole has sent shockwaves through the entire law enforcement industry. The National Police Agency immediately launched internal investigations, examining all personnel for signs of ethical violations. The Met Police were brought before Parliament. The reputation of the police service was at an all-time low. A comprehensive overhaul of recruitment, internal oversight, and the handling of complaints against the police was proposed in the wake of the case. Couzens was taken to serve her sentence at Belmarsh, the maximum security prison that houses Britain's most dangerous criminals. But the name Sarah Everard did not fade away. It became a symbol, launching a national campaign for women's safety and for an end to impunity for those in power.